Welcome to Between Sundays. I'm Tyler, and a friend of the pod is always met with Storge. Today, we're talking about the long, painful, and difficult slog of covenant faithfulness. But before we take delight in one another, now that they're in the starting blocks of the race to the bottom, let's go running with our favorite co-hosts, Maron and Barry. Ready, set, good day, guys.
Wow. Does one
man.
run to the bottom? I always envisioned swimming. Like we're
Oh,
swimming
really?
To the bottom?
to the bottom of the
You
ocean.
can race while swimming.
What if you're running down a mountain?
Oh, I guess. Oh, well,
Ooh.
wouldn't you trip and fall? It sounds very dangerous to run full speed down a mountain.
Yeah, think of that, Tyler. Have you ever thought of that?
No. That was the second intro we've done. I just tripped over it both times.
It's all right. This
It's been
one
a
is
rough.
better.
It's been a rough stretch of intros for me.
It's okay.
Yeah?
Just gotta
What's going on?
Yeah.
gotta
I don't
keep
know.
on
Wanna
it.
process
Keep at
that?
it.
I just try to one up myself every week, and
You're doing great.
I was telling somebody right before we started. I was saying I prepared for this podcast during or in between meetings today because I haven't had a single 15-minute period to focus on this. So,
All you need is 15 minutes?
well, it would have been better than zero.
Is
No,
that how much time
I usually take 2 hours.
Okay.
That's
But-
way too long. That's way too long. Is it? You take 2 hours?
Yeah, usually first thing Monday morning.
Because you watch the sermon again, right?
I watch it at least one more
Uh-huh.
time, and then I'm making notes and reading the passage and reading the whole context of the passage and being, I'm doing pastor
All right.
It's
stuff.
impressive. It's
So you're
impressive.
coming in confident today.
No. So that's that. I'll blame the intro on that.
Okay.
Family business. Today we're going to be talking about week 2 in our sermon series, First Comes Love. Also, special pod later on this week. We're bringing in David and Betsy Bell, who are leading the marriage retreat at Grace Church on August 22nd and 23rd. Don't miss that, friend of the pod. We're going to be going more into depth about marriage and what to expect at this retreat coming up. Look for part 2 and sign up for the marriage retreat, gracechurch.us/marriage retreat. But first, guys, what is new?
What is new?
What is
Maron,
new?
What's new?
Maron's fresh back from the South.
I am. 2 trips to Tennessee, 2 weekends.
Do you like Tennessee
in
more or less
a
after
row.
this?
Well, last week I was in Memphis. This
Yeah.
week I was in Gatlinburg. So
Opposite sides.
Opposite sides of the great state of Tennessee. They have good biscuits. They know what they're doing when it comes to
Good biscuits and good barbecue.
I don't know about the barbecue. I did not experience good Tennessee barbecue. I did not experience that. But biscuits, though, very good. They had a goat cheese peach biscuit. Come on now.
Was this at Cracker Barrel?
Come
or-
on now.
No.
Berry.
Just a little
Very.
joke. Just a little joke.
Right.
Not a huge fan of goat cheese.
Well, you couldn't really taste it. It just made for a really tender biscuit. Anyway, that's
My
not why
favorite thing
people
about,
tune
like,
into this show.
My favorite thing about conversations like that, it's like, you would love the goat cheese biscuit. I'm like, I don't like goat cheese. Well, you can't even taste
You
it.
can't. It just kind of made it.
So then why not just put American cheese on there?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to make some goat
It's like,
cheese.
does the fish
biscuits.
taste like fish? Yes. Oh, I don't like that.
Watch out. Pastor's Retreat, goat cheese biscuits coming at you.
Actually,
Yeah.
we're just gonna start
Coming
eating
at
raw goat cheese, just straight off the block.
So, Tennessee, Gatlinburg.
Tennessee, Gatlinburg. So last year, I was on sabbatical when I did this. But Dave Rod does a retreat for a fraternity. ATO is the fraternity, and it's really kind of a powerful, not kind of, it's a very powerful weekend. It's called Encounter, and the whole premise is that you take chapters of ATO from all across the country, and they all converge on Gatlinburg, and they have a spiritual retreat of sorts. My son and I are invited to lead worship. This was the second year in a row that we've done it. And we start on Thursday and end Sunday morning. So it's kind of a longer weekend.
Yeah.
And I think I had 5 worship sets over the course of those couple of days. And in between, there's just a bunch of small group time and devotional stuff and things like that. So 60 people in attendance. 60,
all boys, all college
of
kids.
them
Yeah.
college kids and their leaders. There were a couple of adult small group leaders, but it's loud.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's intense. And it's a missions trip, man. Let me tell you.
Would you say that we know you pretty well? Like,
No,
you know us. We know you
that's
pretty well.
The number one thing that I say to you is that you don't know
Like
me.
I
You
mean,
don't
it's
know
impossible
me.
to truly know you, I guess. But like, of all the
We've
people
only
in the
been getting
world,
weekly updates about your life for 8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't
do you
really
feel?
know.
I feel like we know you pretty well.
Okay.
It's surprising to me after 8 years of knowing you that like hanging out with fraternity dudes is like one of the things you choose to keep doing.
No. Let's clarify real quick. 2 years ago, I think it was Good Friday. Dave, your dad, was directing the choir.
Yeah.
And then he came up to me it seemed like it was on a whim. Maybe he'd been thinking about it. I don't know. But all he said was, there's this thing I do in Gatlinburg in August, and I really think you should lead worship for it. Would you be open to doing that? And on the spot, I said, yeah, but can I bring my son?
Uh-huh.
I had no idea what I was getting into. And again, last year I was on sabbatical, so
Sure.
it just was, it was like an adventure, you know?
Yeah.
This year was different in that, okay, this time I knew what I was getting into.
Right.
But I didn't have the benefit of being in sabbatical mode. And so, like, I'm currently taking a class over the summer. So just everything was different. In between worship sets, I would retreat to my room, which last year was at the top of the retreat center.
You had like a balcony, right?
No, but it was removed from the noise.
Yeah.
Right? From like all the
boys
whatever.
jumping off of things.
Yeah, playing shooting pool, playing billiards.
Oh,
like
there
it was removed from the game room.
Yeah.
This year I slept on the bottom floor and the game room was right above my room.
Ooh.
And it was absolute chaos. But yeah, in between worship sets I would go and work on homework, and just having to kind of be super mentally flexible to go back and forth between the worship leading headspace and then the academic headspace, and back and forth. I was in constant communication with my prayer team over the weekend saying, you guys got to get me through this one.
Oh, man.
This is tough.
So what are you going to do next year?
I do not know.
Okay.
I do not know. I'm making no commitments at this point.
Maron, we can cut this part out. We're not allowed to talk about this, but Maron sent me a video from the weekend, and it was, I think Dave was like in the baptismal, getting ready to baptize people.
Yeah. So that's an option. Like they again, it's a
hotel
retreat.
pool.
It's a cabin that happens to have a pool.
Yeah,
which is great, just in case there are any spontaneous baptisms.
Yeah, so there was baptism happening.
This year there were quite a few. Yeah,
and nobody was in the pool except Dave and another guy. So baptism hadn't started yet. But I think the reason you sent me the video is because the entire room was singing Higher by Creed.
Yeah.
The entire room.
I've been processing with my son. You know, we had a nice 6-hour drive home from Tennessee yesterday, from Gatlinburg. And in our processing, it was like, all right, where's the line between like contextual ministry, you know, like this was baptism's collegiate style, you know,
man.
There was lots of hooting and hollering and yelling for one another, and that's all cool, and it should be celebrated and stuff like that. But it's just, I just don't have any point of reference for Greek life. I have 0 point of reference for Greek life.
I can educate you.
My son also has 0 point of reference. So yeah, it does feel like a mission trip. It feels like we're entering into another culture. We are speaking their language, or the small group leaders are. I'm leading worship, but they are speaking the language of the people they're there to minister to, and they're doing it in a very contextualized way. You know, it's a mission trip, but it's also, what did I say it was? Like a sociological field trip. You know, because this is so foreign to my son and I. We kind of observe, and there's a whole lot to be observed. But yeah. And then we do a lot of processing on the way home.
I want to go to this. I want to do this.
You should do it. I was thinking about you. You should do it. You should do it. I have a couple of people in mind that I think would, be really strong small group leaders for this event.
I don't want to do that. I just want to see
you and Jaden should be the ones who lead worship next year.
Now
I am
now we
volunteering you, and I'm volunteering my son.
And you're volunteering yourself out of
I
the
don't
picture.
know that they need
Mama Bear. Last year was all
woman.
about Mama Bear.
Yeah, did you see any bears? That's what I want to know.
I did not see any bears.
No bears.
Last year was unbelievably magical, and
Yeah.
I knew going into it this year there's nothing that could come close to last year.
Yeah.
Last year kicked off with our arrival and a rainbow over the mountains. Right? A rainbow over the mountains.
Saints of God.
I'm saying this year it was work.
Uh-huh.
You know, again, and maybe it's because I wasn't coming from a place of deep rest and sabbatical mind.
That's surprising because you are a Creed fan.
Stop talking to me right now. So done with you.
You know Creed is back in a big way right
Yeah,
now.
big-
So
big
done with
time.
both of you. Oh no, there was a guy there, and he was a small group leader, older gentleman, but he just walked around with a portable Bluetooth speaker, just playing all the hits all weekend long.
Okay.
And again, that was not a feature of last year's encounter.
It was a bug.
So this year, I'm like, where is all this classic rock coming from? Don't get me wrong. I love Fogerty
as in like
much
the
as
hits,
the next
not
guy.
like modern hits, but just hits from time.
Right? Yes,
Right.
he was playing like Fortunate Son. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I like that song, but these kids don't know that song. Where
Right.
is this music coming
Right.
from? And then I realized there was just this older gentleman walking around with a portable speaker.
Okay.
Oh, it's an older I got
Older
you. Gotcha.
gentleman. And he said, just wait till you hear the baptism playlist. And so
Whoa.
This guy knows what he's doing.
it was remarkable. And again, a total case study in a life that is very foreign to me. But again, happy to be there with Jaden, happy to be there to
Yeah.
support Dave and lead worship.
Good.
Right on.
Barry, what's new with you?
I'll just do a short update. Little, it's kind of a bittersweet update, but we have had the sort of the end of an era on Haven Farm because if you remember a couple years ago, we adopted 7 hens from. They were basically factory hens in a battery farm. You know,
What do you call them, the Phoenixes?
the phoenixes.
Yeah.
We called them the phoenixes because it was kind of like a new life that they got to have, you know, at the latter part of their life. And we had no idea how old they were. We didn't know how long they were going to last or anything like that. But they got to touch grass for the first time. They got to just live in paradise. But unfortunately, what we've learned over those 2 years is that like almost all of them were near the end of their life, and they all passed away from almost identical issues. Like clockwork, like all but one of them died in the fall or at the end of the summer. So anyway, but I just buried Lotus, the very last of our phoenixes, this past weekend. So, I mean, it's all part of it. It's part of what we signed up for. But it was like, wow, what a kind of a turning of the page. It's the same month that we Haven Farm we got approved by the IRS as a nonprofit. So we were officially a nonprofit organization.
This 2 years ago.
501c3.
Yeah. 2 years ago?
No, we just did.
Just
this,
now?
this month.
Oh.
Yeah, this month. So anyway, so it's just, like there's just it's like turning of the page. Like Humphrey passed away around the exact same time that we decided to make Haven Farm an official organization. And then the last of the Phoenixes passed away right as we were becoming an official nonprofit. And so now we're in it. We're reaching out to other places saying, hey, if you guys have intakes, we got little Ziggy from Indie Animal Control, Ziggy the pig. I started calling him Ziggurat because I think it's just cute. So anyway, but we said, hey, if you guys have any other like farm animals, because they're not equipped for farm animals, like we might be able to take them. And so we might start getting goats or donkeys or cows or who knows what's coming next, but we're official. So anyway, all that to say, it was bittersweet burying the last of the Phoenix.
Is that something, I mean, do you guys, I know when your first like farm pet died, it was like a rough couple of days. Like, is it something you ever like get more familiar with? Because now that it's happened so many times, like, is the grieving process different?
100%. Yeah, I mean there definitely are certain creatures that we have that are just so special to each one of us. Like Humphrey, obviously was our first, and he's meaningful to both of us. But Liv had such a deep, special, almost spiritual connection with Humphrey, and I felt that way with Rue. And so we both kind of had our own grief processes with our first two creatures. But I mean, I have had different emotions with different, even the different hens, as I know, ridiculous as it probably sounds, each one of them has such a different personality and different even relationship with the other hens, with us, that like, it's sad, but yeah, it's definitely becoming more. I've built up some more stamina for like, okay, this is what happens. This is the process. This is what I'm going to go through. And so in a weird way with Lotus, the last one passing of the Phoenixes, it was almost like a positive thing just to say, wow, what an end of a beautiful chapter for them to spend their last 2 years, like literally just in paradise. And having
that's
the time
what I
of their
remember you saying about this whole project, specifically as it relates to the chickens, was that you were going to give these old ladies a place to live out their final days,
exactly, which is exactly
like
what
a retirement home. That's kind of what you referred to it as. So.
So, but it's always hard seeing them kind of decline. And when she was towards the very end, I took her to the vet, and she was so tired and just eyes closed, and I was just petting her little head, and so it's always sad, but but it's part of the deal. So anyway, that's my update.
All right.
What about you, Tyler? What's new?
School started today, and it's all good. Lane, I was saying before we started, Lane has been talking about his first day clothes for a couple of weeks. Like he got new shoes, new shirt, whatever, and he's been talking about it. Like he's excited to wear what he wore today.
Yeah.
He was up and he got dressed. We're doing new rules this year. You got to put your clothes out the night before. And so he put his clothes out last night, all excited. Got up this morning, put his clothes on, promptly dropped a chocolate chip muffin all over his new his new shirt.
Okay.
So he's a messy. He's like one of those messy eater kids.
Yeah.
It's like no matter what he eats, there's like stuff on his face. Yeah. So he had that. He had chocolate on his face, and he had chocolate just like it like bounced or like rolled down his shirt.
Yeah.
And so we had to clean that up. But otherwise, it was smooth sailing this morning. So new phase. And we also, for the first time, boarded our dog this past weekend.
Oh.
How'd that go?
Fine.
Where'd you go? Where did you go?
We went to Lucky Dog.
No. Like you left for somewhere?
Yeah. We went to Elkhart this weekend to visit Lauren's aunt and uncle. Oh. They live on the river up there, and so they had a boat, jet skis, dark waters.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah. Did you do? I think last week you said it was Lauren's intention to just go hard.
Oh, we went
all
hard
the way up.
Oh yeah,
until the night before the first day of school.
Yep. That's exactly what they did. So the plan for Elkhart was, let's get back Saturday. We got core team. Got church, the kids start school the next day. We'll have all day Sunday to just kind of like wrap up summer, whatever. The reality was that I came back by myself on Saturday because by the time it was time to leave on Saturday, every member of my family was like, we want to stay. And so Lauren and all of the other children rode home with someone else Sunday, and they got home Sunday night.
Oh my goodness.
Just in time for like a bath and go to bed.
And you came back for core team.
I came back Saturday.
Yeah,
to go to church because I knew I wasn't going to have much time to prepare for the sermon for this. And so I was like, I got to like take extra notes in the sermon.
Come full circle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, we're now in week 2 of First Comes Love. How you guys feeling? You feeling?
This feels strange because I was not here for the first 2 weeks of this series. I was in Memphis week 1 and in Gatlinburg
and we're almost
week
done.
2. I know. I will be here for week 3.
It'll be my worst one, so guaranteed. I feel good about it. I've had like pretty good feedback from people, some good interactions, and probably the most encouraging thing is the number of couples that I've heard of who have had conversations because I've kind of told them they had to. And it sounds like registrations for the retreat are...
Yeah, I'm going to look at that right now.
Oh, okay.
Where we're at.
Are up, which is awesome. So I suppose I've been kind of twisting people's arms long enough that they're going to finally take me seriously. So
last week, the communications team met with the discipleship team, who's kind of like running the logistics of the marriage retreat.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, so our goal is based on data. We think we can get probably 60, 65 couples there. And Jeff Under is like, I want 100.
All right.
So we're shooting for the stars here. So please go sign up for the retreat if you haven't. Let me find this.
I also have had, while he's looking for that, I've also had some really interesting conversations with people who, I've had conversations with people who are in the middle of a really difficult season in their marriage and they're not sure that it's going to last. I've talked to widows and widowers, and what's intriguing to me and encouraging to me is how much this has actually been super life-giving to the widows and widowers as they think back on the marriages that they had.
Wow.
And I've just been surprised because I thought this would feel like opening up old wounds, but no, they've been like, this just reminds me of how much I loved my spouse, and so that was kind of cool, kind of an unexpected outcome of this series. So, and I heard from some single people who are pretty miserable because they want this, they desire this, and they don't have it right now, and it's really hard for them, and they I think appreciate the acknowledgement that I recognize that this is hard, but that doesn't change the fact that it's really difficult to be single if you don't want to be.
I know my kids aren't quite in that camp because whatever, but I'm hoping that they're taking notes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My 2 adult kids are not married, and I hope that they are filing these things away.
Yeah.
My son is in a relationship. My daughter is not. But
Really?
we can talk offline. Look at your face.
Oh man!
Look at your face.
Wow.
Right, I'm in big trouble. I hope they're taking notes. Is what I'm trying
I hope
to
so
say.
too. Yes.
Bright red.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later, I guess.
Yeah.
So we have 33 couples, 66 people signed up for the retreat already.
It's a good start.
Yeah,
It's great.
So we've got a couple weeks left.
A little short of 100 couples, as Jeff wanted.
Yeah, we're about halfway to my team's goal, but we're hoping, praying for 100 couples now. So
People always register last minute. Too.
Yeah, invite your friends too. Like, this is totally something, like, this isn't just based on Grace people. It's
sure.
Yeah. So, all right. So week 2, you focus on the same passage, not the same verse, but the same passage, Romans 12, primarily Romans 12, verse 10.
9 through 12, and then this week was verse 10. Yeah.
So kind of share what the big idea of this week's sermon was.
Yeah, so first week, we talked about the very kind of almost idealistic idea of biblical marriage, which is covenant faithfulness. It's an eternal bond, and it requires self-giving love, agape, to make it happen. That's the only way that it could happen. So this week we dug a little bit deeper into, okay, what does that actually look like? And to answer that question, I looked at verse 10, which talks about, having marriage be like or in our application of this verse, being like a delight, being something that is not a slog. It's actually something that is meant to at least bring joy and life and tender affection and things like that. But then to answer, okay, so how do we do that, is we come back to the second half of verse 10, which is basically delight in honoring one another. And the specific Greek of that is outdo one another in showing honor. And I described what I think Paul is getting at here in the context of marriage as marriage being a race to the bottom, which is another way of saying that both to make this like ideal of biblical marriage, this extremely high bar possible, both members of a couple must, in my opinion, and I think Paul's opinion, must race to the bottom, seeking to outdo one another and showing honor. One, I'm serving you, you're serving me. I'm looking out for your needs, you're looking out for my needs. And by doing that sort of back and forth self-giving love, that is how a marriage can thrive and lead to all those beautiful positive outcomes of that high ideal. And so to kind of explain some of the biblical foundations of all this, we spent a very long time going back on a rabbit trail to Genesis and talked about the first marriage and that sort of in the human origin stories in Genesis and how things kind of fell apart and how we get back to that.
I've got questions. Usually I do this podcast and I'm like, all right, let's like ease ourselves into it. Like, tell me about your process or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to I'm not doing that today.
Straight to the
chase.
Let's go.
Why is Eve's name not Eve?
All right. Why did I choose to call her Chava and not Eve? So, good question. So straight
to the chase.
No, it is
the most important.
So,
issue.
so it started with Adam's name being human.
Yeah.
Adam in Hebrew, Adam. And I've found a lot of value in kind of shaking off some of my Sunday school flannel graph assumptions about some of the Old Testament stories by kind of reframing some of what these things mean. And so for me, looking at the word Adam and just putting human in there, even though that could be a proper name, human, Adam, helps me to realize that we think every time we see that in Genesis, we tend to think, oh, it's talking about the dude. But there's a sense in which it's talking about the human. Like before the human is split in two to become Ish and Isha, man and woman, the human is just kind of one. And I think we always, at least I grew up thinking of the woman as sort of a last minute addition to humanity, when I think, and I could be wrong, but I think the biblical authors want us to imagine that man and woman come from human. So it's almost as if Adam becomes two beings, one named Adam and one named Chava. And so Chava, Eve, I find it's a good way for me at least to remember that her name means life. So it's human and life are married, and calling her Chava breaks us, in my opinion, of that sort of habitual understanding of that flannel graph picture of two naked white people in a garden with fig leaves on them. Like that, it kind of brings us back into some of the Hebrew poetry of it. So that's all. That's why I did it. I don't know.
I'm going to call her Eve today.
You can call her Eve if you want. I'm calling her Chava.
I like the way it expands upon the flannel graph.
Yes.
Maybe it doesn't obliterate the flannel graph, but it definitely takes what could be, I guess, one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And adds a whole universe of dimension to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And that's unfortunately what we miss because of our Bibles being translated into English, is we miss the incredible poetry of Genesis. I mean, we're talking unbelievable word plays and rhymes and crazy Hebrew things that you can do that you can't do in English, with words that are like, I didn't get into this in the message, but a great example is in Genesis 3, when God is explaining to the man that now you and the earth are essentially in conflict, and the ground is going to produce thorns and thistles for you. The ground, if we remember, is what the man is made out of. He's made out of the dust. God says, now you are going to return to the dust when you die. And the word ground in Hebrew is Adamah. And so Adam and Adamah, which were at the beginning, they were kind of unified, are now in conflict. And now the same thing is true for Ish and Isha, man and woman, that they were once one and now are in conflict. And so that all that kind of is going underneath the surface, and it takes what is easy to turn into this sort of like children's story, and it turns it into this really deeply poetic and thought-provoking analysis of the human condition, whether or not, and I'm not even talking about like whether it's literal or not. The point is they're making these poetic, they're using these poetic words and languages and ideas to try to evoke something deep about reality. Yeah. So that's why I love it.
That is cool. And I've never even once in my life thought about this story, the Genesis 3, Adam and Eve, and how that applies to my marriage, ever, once. I've never thought about that. I don't know if you guys have. Clearly you have.
Clearly.
Yeah. So Genesis 3 is full of bad news.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not great for humanity in Genesis 3. Right. And my question about that is, do you think that we have done enough, like as the church has done enough to address, I guess, how sin patterns from Genesis 3 still shape our marriages today? Because that's the first time I'd ever thought about how Genesis 3 has to do with my marriage. So do you think the church has done enough to address that? Because it occurred to me that the fall or sin or whatever you want to call it has kind of sometimes been stamped, if we're talking about relationships and marriage, it's like been stamped with God's plan. Like we see things in Genesis 3:16, God saying to Eve, your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you. And I was raised to believe that was more of a command than like a consequence of something. And so sin made it that way. Sin defined like this dynamic between man and woman. Sin did that.
Made it a power struggle.
Power
Right.
struggle. I think it occurred to me maybe for the first time, like, I need to be honest about that in order to recover and get back to Eden, like you were saying, like to go back to basically have lives and marriages that are more like Genesis 1 and 2 instead of like Genesis 3. We need to address the fact that sin is the cause of us living like Genesis 3. Right? It's not God's desire at all. So race to the bottom. But also some of us need to ask for forgiveness because sin got us here. And we need to humble ourselves and acknowledge our sin and apologize in order to get back to Genesis 1 and 2. Not just basically how we have to come to grips with how we got to Genesis 3.
Right.
I don't know. So I told you I was cutting to the chase. So like,
so you apologize to Lauren.
No,
and
it's
things
not
are
about
better.
me. I had a number of people be like, you gave a lot away about your marriage. And I'm like, it's not question about my
But
relationship.
it's when you come to these like deep realizations that we're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a window into my...
You're,
No, I don't know. It was the first time I'd ever thought about this in relation to my marriage. And I was like, well, how did they get to Genesis 3? Well, they sinned, okay? And if we're trying to race to the bottom and return to Eden, like we have to acknowledge that some of these marriages require some of us, if not all of us, to be like, I humble myself and I'm wrong and I'm sorry. Yeah.
I think that's a really important point. Like,
thank you.
and you don't make them often, so I'm just but no, like we could start just doing a bunch of nice things for each other, but maybe that's not where we need to start. Maybe we need to start with humbling ourselves and owning our stuff and apologizing genuinely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, and this is what makes Hebrew poetry such great meditation literature, is that because the story is written in such a profound, simple, yet really deep way, you can have these conversations. Like we could talk about how things led to the fall in the first place. Like God spoke to Adam and gave him specific instructions, and then Eve is created.
Yeah.
And Eve is the one that takes the first bite of the fruit and then offers it to Adam, which he then accepts. So it raises all kinds of questions. Did Adam not communicate God's will to Eve? At least not accurately. Is he in some way responsible? We always are like, oh, the woman was the one who sinned. It's like, yeah, but he had the responsibility to teach her. And so it gets, there's so much that we could get into. But I think you're onto something. There's something kind of deep and fundamental about the idea of acknowledging that things are not the way they were meant to be. And it's what we do at Grace Church all the time. We talk about the 6 broken places. I mean, we could add the 7th broken place, which is marriage is just broken because we've lost sight of what it means to be face-to-face, unashamed in the garden, face-to-face with our Creator, walking with him in the cool of the day. Like that, we've lost that. So I'm with you. We need to...
Yeah, I'll talk about this in a second, but this sermon in particular, I think the series is really good, but I think that the series is making a couple of assumptions about the people who listen to it. And one of those assumptions is like, we're all on the same page about God and what we believe about Jesus. So therefore, we're going to race to the bottom because that's what Jesus would do.
Right.
But I'll get to it in a minute, but
that doesn't necessarily come naturally to us as people.
No, it's like if I have a bunch of
people, are we assuming that people want to be like Jesus and are like, yeah, sign me up for the race to the bottom?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And instead of being like, if it's like last week, my big takeaway was like, do this now. Don't wait. Like talk about your marriage and agape love and all this. Do this now. This one is race to the bottom. Okay. So like if I'm taking snapshots of what the big idea for me is, part of me is like, do that if you guys both believe the same things about God.
Right.
If you don't, maybe one of you needs to apologize. Like there's a brokenness if they're not just about God, but like how we even view the marriage. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think if I'm hearing you correctly, it's almost like there should have been a first sermon or a proto sermon before the first two, which was like, surrender your life to
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
and commit yourself to
Yeah.
follow him if you ever want your marriage to survive. It starts there.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Right.
that is, you're right. It's a fundamental assumption. I definitely do assume that the people listening to me are believers.
Yeah.
Not that I, am excluding people who are not, but I kind of preach with that
Yeah.
as sort of
Right.
the backdrop
Yeah.
of my, because
I kind of
yeah.
was thinking along the same lines. Like, this goes back to the idea of being equally yoked, right?
Mm.
And so we're making assumptions that people are on the same page about their faith and a desire to be like Christ. But the couples that I know that are struggling, some of them would say that they're on the same level in terms of how they view their faith. But others would say, well, one of them deconstructed and
That's right.
and I did not. And so now they might, even if they got married, 20 years ago, maybe they thought that they were equally yoked
Yeah.
at the time,
Yeah.
but the cares of life crept in.
Mm-hmm.
Even as you're kind of reframing Adam and Eve's name means life, and Adam means, human. If we were to take those names and superimpose them over the story of what happened in the garden, life offered human a lie or temptation. Life bringer brought temptation to human,
Right.
and it brought disunity, right? And so that happens all the time. Life gets in the way.
Right.
Life presents us with something that is shiny and new and looks, pleasant to our eyes, but is actually detrimental to our wellness and whatever.
Right.
And we're seeing that play out over and over again in
Yeah.
these couples and these families that we know.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. Like, if you're not on the same page, how does this apply to the race to the bottom?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because you addressed a little bit where you were like, you're kind of competing. It is a race. So like you're competing to serve the other person.
Right.
Well, what if somebody doesn't want to do that?
Right. Well, that
You
that
know?
is absolutely the risk. I mean,
Yeah.
That's part of why I brought up the fact that Jesus died for us while we were still sinners.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't.
Mhm.
If we're just waiting until the conditions are perfect to start a race to the bottom, I don't think we'll ever start.
Right.
You know, it's like, and so I took out for the sake of time, but I mentioned it last week in the podcast, but the passage in 1 Corinthians 7 where Paul is talking about people who are married to unbelievers, and his basic conclusion, I, not the Lord, he says, like, this is my opinion, but he says, if they leave you because of your faith in Christ, so be it. Like, let them go.
Mm.
But I encourage you to stay in the marriage, to love them well, because who knows? Wife, you might save your husband. Husband, you might save your wife. And so I do see there, even in that, a call to, if you are unequally yoked, like, which that phrase has probably been misused a lot over the years in different ways. But if that's the case and you are not, like, on the same page with your faith, there's still, I think, a biblical call to pursue that biblical ideal in the hopes and in the trust that God can do amazing,
Absolutely.
miraculous
that is,
things.
I agree. I just have people's picture, like, faces running through my brain of, like, one of the people involved in this marriage is doing that. They're like, agape. I'm like, tell me, I'll race to the bottom. The other person is kind of using their agape-ness to exploit the other person and be like, you can race to the bottom, but I don't care. Like, they're enabling. They're treating it as they're being, like, almost as if they're being enabled to do unhealthy things, you know? And so it's hard for me to sit here and be like, just stick it out because you might impact them with Christ. But I think in my heart, I believe that, but like,
well, and again, we're not taking that scripture and applying it to every situation. Like, in some cases, and I think of, like, people that I knew growing up where neither one of them had any faith when they got married, but then one spouse,
one person,
comes to the faith.
Should
they then leave their unbelieving partner? In that case, maybe not. Do you have a good thing going? Are you guys friends? Do you love each other?
Right.
Yeah, stay in the marriage, because who knows? Maybe by you living a Christ life out loud in front of your partner, that could bring your partner to the faith. We don't take these scriptures and paint with such a broad brush and say this is true for you and you and
Right.
you and every situation henceforth.
Right.
It might not be true for certain situations, especially, and I don't want to get ahead, but you said next week you're talking about cases of abuse and things like that.
Exactly. And this is something I'm going to try to address because it's true. Like, what do you do when it doesn't pan out? What do you do when you're not both on the same page like that? And I think verses 11 and 12 will give us a lot of good fodder to go there and talk about that. But yeah, it is really, it's difficult. And I acknowledged, like, we're talking about ideals here. We're talking about, we're setting a extraordinarily high bar that we acknowledge none of us can even ever reach because we're not Jesus. And so we are talking about ideals. I don't want to move on so quickly from ideals to the real world that we all give ourselves permission to not try.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why we're talking about ideals. Next week we will then go back into the cold water of reality.
I appreciate that you did that, because as I was listening to the sermon, that's right where my head went, was like, ugh, this is so idealistic.
Totally.
And then right when I thought that internally, you said, and I know this is idealistic, but we're just going to camp out here for a little while longer. You are wanting us to see how high the bar is set, knowing that of course we're all human and of course we're all going to fall, but here's God's most ideal version of what a human partnership looks like.
Sure. Right. And I mean, surely the biblical authors understood that it was idealistic as well. I mean, when Paul says in Ephesians 6, when he says in Ephesians 6, like, husbands, love your wives the way that Christ loved the church.
Right.
He died and gave up his life for her. It's like, wow. I mean, I can't imagine Paul being like, I want you to actually die for your wife, but he definitely is raising the bar. I want you to actually set yourself aside. And in a patriarchal culture, it's even more extreme. So
it reminded me of when companies have like what is the layer of it? Is it a mission statement where like it's the most aspirational thing? It reminded me of that. Of a vision statement.
Right.
Like, here's something we know that we're going to aspire to for the rest of our lives.
Right.
And probably not like achieve to perfection.
Right.
But this is the benchmark. This is the thing we're going to reach for. This is our aspiration forever.
We will transform the culture of work.
You know what I mean?
Dunder Mifflin paper company.
I grew up with a vision statement. You guys have probably heard it. But when mom's happy, everyone's happy. That's what I heard. Growing up, I heard it from multiple people.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah, happy wife, happy life.
I heard it a different way. It was, if mama's not happy, ain't nobody happy. That's how I heard it.
So I always wondered, how can that possibly be true? Because that feels like it's rife for exploitation. One of my questions after the sermon is, how would you explain the difference between like out honoring each other and just like trying to keep your spouse happy?
Asking for a friend.
That's a great
It's not my problem. It's not my problem.
I think it's a great question. I think it's a really, really good question. What's the difference?
Yeah, what is the difference?
Maron?
I'm still laughing in my head.
What's the difference between out honoring someone? So like,
and just sort of cynically making the
just
other
trying
person
to make
happy
that person's happy
to avoid conflict.
So everybody's happy and there's no problems.
Yeah,
I think it's motivation, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's motivation. I think the things that you do to honor someone versus the things that you do to like prevent them from being miserable, they are very different. Like,
or prevent them from getting angry. If mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Yeah. That's like, there's something different to me in like promoting a positive than negating a negative. I think what we're trying to do with this race to the bottom is to elevate the other person. It isn't just to kind of keep them from hurting me or to keep them from being unhappy. It's like, no, I'm actually going to lift you up and they're going to lift me up. And that's the ideal. So I hear what you're saying. And I realize it could be easy. Like, well, I just got to, get chocolates from my wife when she's upset and boom, I've solved the problem.
From me growing up, it was my mom would travel sometimes and it'd be like a week or something. And the day she was getting home, it was like, we got to pick up the house quick. Your mom's going to come back and we can't have this be a mess or everybody's going to be punished, basically.
Yeah.
And so we'd scramble and try to clean up the house. And it wasn't to like show my mom like honoring her. It was
like, to avoid
avoid us getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big difference.
Yeah.
I think ideally it comes from the place you described. Like you want to lift up your spouse.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about spouses, not moms.
Yeah.
From an idealistic place, yeah, I would be serving Jed because I want to uplift Jed.
Yeah.
Sometimes, just sometimes, I don't feel like uplifting Jed.
Right.
And so sometimes,
Genesis 3. Yeah.
Sometimes it comes out of a heart of obedience.
Sure.
Oh,
I think you're right.
Asking for a friend.
Oh, I don't want to do this, Lord.
Yeah, what if you can't even stand being in the same space as people?
Yeah.
Like,
sometimes it comes out of a heart of obedience to the Father.
Yeah, because, I mean, we talked about this last week. Like, we have been a part of situations, people in the congregation that have asked us to enter into their marriages and whatever to help. Like, we've seen a lot of marriages kind of falling apart recently in the last few years. And in some of them, I don't know about all of them, but in some of them, there's like this point of no return before they ever get divorced. They're still right on the path, but like, what does like racing to the bottom look like if you can't even like stand to look at your spouse?
Right. Well, I mean, I think the answer is a race to the bottom in a situation like that, which has become so toxic and so, just almost impossible, is to be willing to talk to your spouse and to be willing to look at your spouse. I mean, starting with like an acknowledgement that things are not good. And it has to start with, I mean, again, this is one of those things where at the end of the day, I don't know that any marriage can ever thrive if only one partner is doing all the heavy lifting. Like it just doesn't work that way. Not with the biblical ideal of covenant faithfulness. And so I just want to acknowledge that, make sure everyone hears me say that. Like this is never going to be one partner doing all the work. Both partners have to race to the bottom. That's just how it is. And so, in a situation like that, I mean, it can feel a little hopeless, but if both partners can at least say, I would rather make this work or figure out how to make this work than separate. If that's all they can say, like we can work with that. We can start there and we could start to figure out, okay, so what is the core of this problem and how do we address it and how do we get past all the layers of like being bad roommates and get down to like the core of like, oh, you have deep shame, oh, you have deep guilt, like these are the core emotions that you are masking some deep brokenness, like that needs to happen. And unfortunately that can't happen unless there's at least a modicum of interest in trying to make things work.
I have seen marriages come back from that.
Absolutely. I know several marriages that are like that.
Again, we have these conversations and we just see faces, right?
Yeah.
I'm seeing names and faces of people for whom that was their story.
Yeah.
And their testimony is how God brought them back from that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think back to the things that they would have pointed to saying, this is what helped us. We had a multitude of counselors. We had therapists. We had pastoral counselors. We had friends that were praying for us. We went to marriage retreats. Like they put in the work,
right?
Because they were committed to covenant faithfulness, and they did not want to remain roommates or, ghost ships passing in the night or miserable for the remainder of their lives.
Right.
They put in the work, and again, it wasn't one thing that fixed it all. It was a myriad of things. They tried everything that they could, but they were very intent and made it their project, their life's project. We are going to lift our marriage from the mud.
Yeah. And again, there are times where that has happened because one party in a marriage was dedicated to it for a long period of time, and the Holy Spirit was working on the other partner.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily it doesn't always start with both parties being exactly eye to eye. Sometimes it's years.
Yes.
So like I wish it wasn't, but that might be the case, and it requires a commitment from one person to covenant faithfulness. Yeah. With the trust and the hope that the other will eventually meet them eye to eye. Yeah. But it's again, when we go from ideals down to the real world, that's when things just get so messy and so difficult and so
you guys want to get a little personal?
Heck yeah, let's do
All
it.
right.
I think
I looked at her.
My
I looked
answer
at her.
is always no.
My answer is always yes.
You're gonna do it anyway.
All right. What's the hardest part for you guys to live your race to the bottom in your own marriage?
Doing it consistently over time.
Like for me, I often feel like it's a right. I have a right to be understood. And I need to, racing to the bottom has taught me, I don't do it well all the time, but it's taught me that I need to set that aside sometimes. I'm trying to, I not only feel like I need to explain, but I need you to explain, but I feel like that I have a need where I need to be explaining to you, and you need to understand me, and I need to understand you. And I've realized that Jesus sometimes calls me to like lay that down and listen, even at the cost of me feeling like embarrassed or feeling like I'm suffering some kind of injustice being done to me because I'm not understood or I'm not understanding or something. And so what is that for you guys? What is hard about racing to the bottom for you?
I think for me and for Liv, what we've been learning as we are now halfway through our 9th year of marriage, so we're 8.5 years married. What we're working on now, what we're learning right. Thank you, thank you. What we're learning right now, or I'll just speak for myself. What I'm learning is that it is extraordinarily easy for external factors, external to our marriage, to so influence my own personal, mental, spiritual, and even physical well-being that it can bleed over into the marriage super easily. And so I have a tumultuous emotional relationship with this role as pastor of this church. I've gone, there have been high highs and very low lows, and sometimes I find myself entering seasons of kind of more depressive episodes. I find myself getting distracted. What I'm learning is that often when I am in those low valleys, without even realizing it, suddenly my own capacity to offer grace to Liv goes down, and suddenly I'm not assuming positive intent when she says that thing. I'm starting to assume that she's trying to hurt me with that that statement. Whereas if I'm in a good place, I let that stuff roll off my back easily, and I think, oh, she didn't mean that, But I have less patience, less grace when I'm in a low trough that has nothing to do with her. But then in a roundabout way, that affects my reactions. That affects the way that I talk to her, the way that I'm not about to go buy her a bunch of little treats like I talked about in my message and get her gifts with her love language if I'm feeling like I'm in that low trough. And so, and I know the same thing is true for her. She goes on her own roller coaster. And what we've learned is there are times when we're both in those low troughs, and that's when we both have to be extraordinarily cautious and thoughtful in the way that we talk and the way that we address stuff. And I'm really lucky or blessed that Liv and I both are exceedingly honest people. And I'm not just like patting us on the back. It's just how we're wired, where we both wear our emotions on our sleeves. And we both from the beginning have kind of had a commitment to saying, what's up? Are you okay? What's going on? Do you want to talk about it? We've had many, many long conversations, but as a result, we've been able to kind of get to the bottom of a lot of this stuff faster than we would if we had just let it fester. So all that to say, I'm learning a lot. I'm only 8.5 years married, but that's the one thing I'm currently kind of recognizing is that when I'm in a low point for other reasons, that's the quickest place for me to start eroding that sort of the trust that we've built up, or starting to lose my patience and things like that.
Yeah. What about you?
I meant what I said.
All right, we'll leave it there. What's next?
Racing to the bottom, choosing to race to the bottom consistently and over time. I mean, we've been married going on 23 years, long time.
Longer than Barry and me put together.
Wow, that's true.
We're pros at this. No, we are not pros. We will come off the blocks, racing toward the bottom. We're doing great. Something trips us up. It could be any number of things. As I look back over some of our greatest hits of fights over 23 years.
Greatest hits.
It could be anything. And a lot of times it feels like there is no clear person in the right, person in the wrong. We are both right in our own right, and we are both wrong in our own right. And it can be very hard to see eye to eye. It can be hard to understand one another. Very hard to understand one another. I've seen that even in my parents. Like sometimes they're fighting about the same thing, or they were. Sometimes they'd be fighting about the same thing, saying the same thing.
They're in
but
violent
fighting about
agreement.
it.
Violent agreement.
Yes. So that happens to us over time. And it feels like when you're playing tic-tac-toe and there's like no other move to be made, and it's just, you got to call a cat's game.
Right.
It feels, our arguments feel like that a lot. There is no clear winner. There is no clear loser.
Yeah.
We are at a stalemate. We are just calling it a cat's game. The trick then is starting fresh.
Right.
Dusting yourself off and choosing to recommence the race to the bottom.
Yeah.
We might never come to like a nice, tidy wrap up of whatever that conflict was.
Right.
Maybe we just need to brush ourselves off and start again. Like or we will just continue to tumble over each other down to the bottom instead of a nice steady race to the bottom.
It's a trip to the bottom.
Continue to trip over each other all the way to the bottom until we're both a bloody mess. So yeah, consistently and over time, choosing to restart that race to the bottom, and doing that together.
That might be the answer to my last question, which is like, how do you honor your spouse if you have a like really strong disagreement about something that matters? Like whether it's parenting, money, faith, whatever. Like, how do you decide, all right, let's just start over? And, or maybe that is the answer versus like, how do we move forward if we like severely disagree on this really important thing? How do we continue, or how do we honor one another when a decision has to be made about how we're going to move forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important to make sure at the minimum that you at least truly understand where your partner is coming from, like actually understand, be able to articulate, this is why you feel this way. This is what you think is going on in this circumstance, and have them be able to say that about yours. At the very least, if you guys actually understand where the other is coming from, then you can begin to say, okay, so now what do we do about this and how do we move forward? But I would say 9 times out of 10, people write narratives in their head about what's going on, and they never actually do the hard work to find out, to fact check the narrative, and that narrative suddenly gets reinforced every time the partner does that thing. And it's just like, because I've determined that your motives are this, every time you do this thing, I know it's because your motives are this. But if you've never actually found out, is that actually their motive? Then it's just a recipe for disaster. So I would say at the very least, that's not a full answer, but it's a starting point. Make sure you truly understand why your partner is saying what they're saying, where they're coming from. And I think sometimes therapists and counselors are deeply important for that to happen, because sometimes the walls that we build up to protect ourselves and our hearts and our woundings, like those walls can often be the thing that keep us from actually being able to do that. So having a third party who's skilled and an expert in that can actually help bring that out and bring the truth to the surface, so we can at least see each other eye to eye, which is what we're meant to be.
Yeah.
And give you tools to be able to do that on your own in the future.
Yes.
My husband and I have gone through different cycles of counseling over 23 years, and that's taken different forms. Sometimes it's been pastoral counseling. Sometimes it's been therapeutic counseling. Sometimes it's been intensive marriage retreats. We've done all of the things over 23 years.
Sure.
And we do have some tools. We could always use more.
Right.
But to call back to the video we saw this week of the Osgoods, they talked about never using definitive statements like you always and you never.
Totally.
That's something we picked up probably 20 years ago.
Yep.
And it's been so good to not hyperbolize at one another. Totally. You always do this and you never do this. And then it just gets all dramatic and heated. And so you go to counseling, you go to therapy, you get tools, you acquire tools that you can use then through the rest of your marriage. I think I agree with you, Barry, that it's important to each spouse that they feel heard, whether you agree with what they're saying or not.
Don't have to agree.
If you can repeat at least what you hear them saying, they at least, are you hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth? They at least know that you have put down your side of the argument just long enough to hear the words that are coming out of your spouse's mouth. That's important. It's equally important that both parties be able to own what they can own.
Right.
That's really important. I have to search my heart quite often to find what it is in this particular dispute that I did wrong, or that I can own, or that I can apologize for, or just help me see eye to eye with him. And at the end of the day, again, it comes down to just choosing one another over and over again. Even if that didn't have the resolution I was looking for, maybe it did, maybe it never will. But I'm going to choose you over and over again, and we're both back on the blocks, and we're both restarting our race to the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is what we said last week, but some of this stuff is just basic conflict management stuff. Acknowledging what another person said instead of jumping in with your own opinion. It's like 101 for just like resolving when there's differences between two people. But that is so important, and I think it so often doesn't happen in a marriage. And it's that always, I agree with you. That was a great little bit of advice, a little nugget of wisdom from the Osgoods, that always never. I always think of it too in terms of like shame language, which is basically defining characteristics about the other person versus defining actions. So saying like you are so demeaning to me is like a shame thing, or like you are a demeaning person. That is a shameful thing to say versus when you said that to me, I felt demeaned. Right? Like that's a totally different thing.
Totally
but that you can own, and they can't argue with it because they can't say, no, you didn't feel that.
Right.
You did feel that, but that doesn't mean they intended it, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's where you start. You can say, this is how I feel because of what you did and things like that. So yeah, we could talk forever about all this good advice stuff, but.
All right, we're going to dig in now to a conversation with David and Betsy Bell to give us a taste of what they expect with the marriage retreat coming up at Grace on August 22nd, 23rd. So I know it's going to make the podcast twice as long, but stick with it, enjoy it, come back to it if you need to take a break or whatever. But here now is David and Betsy. All right, we are here with David and Betsy Bell, who will be leading and facilitating the marriage retreat at Grace Church August 22nd and 23rd. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. We're
You
excited
guys-
to be here.
Yeah, you guys just told me that this is your first foray into potting.
Yeah, I think it is.
You've done it before.
David,
I haven't.
you
You
may
you
not
put
remember,
me on here,
but
a few
you've
years
been
ago.
on this
Oh,
show.
I've been on this. Yes, I do remember that.
You are the only guest we've ever had that required 2 episodes because of how long we went.
Because
Oh,
we were
that's a
talking about the
shock.
Enneagram, and we decided to walk through all numbers.
That's nice of you to put the credit to the
Yeah.
Enneagram and not to how many times I was told, David, between services, you got to cut time off. Can you just
tighten it
like
up?
shorten that up?
Yeah.
Like by 7-8 minutes.
Yeah, I bet you probably never would have thought we would be doing this 8 years later because that was 8 years ago we did that.
Yeah, that's valid. I'm not sure I would know that you would keep going. I think it's
Still
great. I love it.
Yeah, all right. Full disclosure, everybody. Grace Church used to do this thing called Way of Discipleship, which was a form of Christian mentorship, for lack of a better term. David and I went through that years ago. Almost.
David
Probably,
was your mentor?
yeah, he was my discipler. Is the term we used.
That's
yeah.
right.
I love that you called it full disclosure. Like there's some sort of like
Well,
journalistic
no,
integrity
yeah,
at stake here.
A conflict of interest.
No, it's just
All right,
gonna,
guys, I have to say something
I
as
have
well.
to admit it.
David also discipled me. I'm sorry. I had to say it. I had to say it.
So the bias is in the room. That's what you're
Well,
saying.
biased, but also like you are. I'm really glad that you guys are doing this because you, David, are a huge reason why I am who I am spiritually, and you affected my marriage along with, I'm sure, other people that you discipled. And so we're talking today about marriage, and I just wanted friends of the pod to know, like, this is a personal thing for me to be able to talk to you guys about this. So thank you so much for you guys being here. We just hope to have a conversation about who you guys are, marriage and life, and then kind of give us a taste of what to expect on the marriage retreat here in a couple of weeks. So to get us started, before we dig into the topic, I would love for you guys to just share a little bit about you. Who are you? And share a little bit about yourselves.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. I'm Betsy. I am a new spiritual director, so it's a new role that I'm stepping into, and that has been a fun journey over the last couple of years. I'm a wife to David. We've been married 27 years. Mom to 3 kids, 2 in college, 1 in high school. We're getting old. So I love to garden. I love to spend time with people and just hear people's stories and where God is meeting them or where they're not seeing God show up in ways they might hope for, and just encourage them.
Cool.
Yeah.
What does spiritual direction look like for you? Are you doing that mostly one-on-one? Are there groups? Like how does that work?
I work one-on-one with people right now. Currently, yes.
Cool.
Yes.
That's awesome. It's very cool.
Great. Thanks, Betsy. What about you, David? Who are you?
Well, first, I'm just going to say she's about to turn 29 again as well. Her birthday is this summer.
Congratulations.
So,
See, I will do a soundbite for that.
the week of the retreat, it will have been her birthday on that Tuesday before. So
Nice.
yes.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy
early
birthday.
birthday.
Thank you. It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 29 again is really big.
David, what about you? Who are you? And what have you been up to?
So I'm Betsy's husband, most importantly, and the father to those 3 children, 2 in college and 1 in high school. Our daughter started high school last week, which feels
insane.
Yes.
How is that even possible?
Insane.
Yes, that feels that. When we were coming in today to do the podcast, and we did the check-in at the front desk and put our name in, and our family popped up, and I think our oldest's picture was probably like from when he was 5 or 6. And second oldest is about
I remember
4, and
little time
Janie's was
capsule.
like, total time capsule, like 2-3 years old. Like, anyway,
I remember when Janie was having trouble sleeping like at night.
Yes.
I remember, and now my kids are that age.
And hopefully they're not having trouble sleeping.
For the most part, not. But
If you don't move houses, it really helps.
that's probably good.
That's probably one piece of it. So I lead a nonprofit called Circle City Fellows. We are a faith and work initiative helping people to understand that their work matters to God and that it is just as important as pastor or priest, whatever you do, because it aligns with God's mission in the world and feeds into the vision that of God's mission, that everybody would have enough and nobody would need to be afraid. And then we also do our work together with Enneagram Insight, where we put on workshops and seminars and retreats, very much incorporating the Enneagram, as well as do coaching and consulting myself, whether it's one-on-one executive leadership coaching, or it's with couples, or it's with teams in that way. But what has also been happening for us more recently in the last year, maybe a year or 2, maybe 3, is expanding into some retreats and some opportunities where the Enneagram is not necessarily a part of it, so that it opens up in some ways certain opportunities, like this retreat will be, where people don't need to know the Enneagram coming in, because we're not going to talk about the Enneagram, and because we have aspects that we can do, like this retreat, where we can do this retreat with the Enneagram and we can do it without, and it's effective, we believe, in our experience, and opens the door to people in that way. So we're grateful for that.
Probably gives you a lot of extra time to go deep when you don't have to walk through, here's all the 7 numbers and here's how they interact, all that stuff, when you don't have to set all that up.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Although I still talk too much and still take up too much time when I talk. So
It's all good stuff.
Yeah, hopefully.
Betsy, you said that you guys have been married 27 years. So Maron, actually, we were just talking about marriage, and she's been married for 23 years.
Just shy.
Awesome.
Right behind
Wow.
you guys.
Yes,
which
you
is
are.
more than Barry and I put together have been married.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been married for 12 and Barry's 8, right?
8, yeah.
8 years.
Okay.
So after 27 years, is there anything that still surprises you about marriage?
Yes.
Again, we can edit anything out. So if you say something you're not supposed to, David, we can cut it.
I love the cautionary glances you're throwing at each other.
Honestly, like in some ways, particularly from what I thought marriage would be when we were obviously young and naive, I guess in a way you could say that it's surprising how much work marriage still is.
Yeah.
That even though we are in some ways so used to each other, aware of what each other likes, aware of how we're going to handle situations, aware of how we're probably going to respond to each other in certain moments, because we also at the same time seek to grow, seek to experience God's transformation in our life, seek to recognize that we are changing as human beings. It just means there's continual also adapting to one another. I still do some premarital counseling, and with those couples I used to do it with back in the day, here when we were at Grace, you're telling them who you're marrying is not the person you're going to be married to in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And that's so true for us at 27. And so I think, especially looking back, it's kind of, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this really, like it just takes work. But it's really great work, but it's still work to move in those spaces in that way. So,
yeah.
What would you add?
Yeah, just when you think like, oh, we've
got
resolved
this.
this conflict, like something new pops up and you work through that. But it's, the stretching, the struggles there. It's hard at times, but it's worth it to just fight for all, the little things. And but also, I mean, it's like, I guess it's not surprising, but there's a lot of joy in marriage too after this time, and it's not all conflict and struggles. It's like, so intentionally looking for things to be grateful for, and that is really important.
Yeah,
in the midst of the struggles.
And when you do the work to it, I mean, it is truly like the experience of, I can look at her and have literally the same butterflies I remember having when I was, of the numerous times I had to pursue you to get you to fall in love with me. It took a while, friends. But like those butterflies of like her, just the beauty of who she is in all ways coming out, the joy, the liking each other. Like, it's not surprising, to me, particularly because of the work, but it might be surprising to others that they would look at that. Sometimes the way we get marriage pictured, and sometimes the either like the mundane way it can be portrayed in our culture. Like I don't feel any of that in what we have, because we seek to work with intentionality to have a great marriage. And to us, that great marriage is about liking each other every bit as much as we love each other and enjoying each other.
What drew you guys? Like, you guys work together now.
Yes.
And so what?
Super fun.
Some people can't do that. Maron works with her husband. Jed works here. So Maron and Jed both work part of Grace, but not every married couple can do that. So what led you guys to this point where you're like, this is what we're both passionate about and we should do it together?
I would say back when, 20 years ago, when I was at home with our little kids, and David was working in ministry, like I just had there was a seed planted in my heart at that time. Like, I just would love to be able to work together at some point. I don't know what that's going to look like. And then there were opportunities to do that, to do the premarital counseling together. So that kind of started it. And then, it's always been something I've desired. So I think we just enjoy each other. We enjoy being together. And, we've definitely had things to work out related to working together, but it's something I've always wanted and desired.
What's kind of like, share with us, like, do you have like specific roles when you work together? Like, Betsy's really good at this, so therefore she's going to fill this role, and David's good. Like, do you guys have specific lanes to fill, so to speak?
We're still working that out. I feel like it's very much like
how new is it?
We've been, when we started Enneagram Insight 7 years ago, there was a level at which we were working together then, and it was, especially at that point, it was much more Betsy behind the scenes, and me doing teaching and coaching and leaning in those more forward-facing ways.
And I was working full-time.
She was also working full-time at that point in a school setting, so she was much more there. Then over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, Betsy left working full-time about 2 or 3 years ago. I guess it's 3 now. We went part-time. It opened the door to pursue becoming a spiritual director, which we see as a direct connection to the work that we do with Enneagram Insight. And then it also just afforded the opportunity of more intentionality for you, for example, to prepare to public speaking is not Betsy's favorite thing necessarily. I am comfortable with that. But at the same time, with not working even full time, it just meant more time for you to start to step into more of those roles and find your footing. I should say her, I'm looking at you, so I'm talking about you, but for her to find her footing with what is it that she wants to share? How does she want to pursue that? I would say over the last year, especially, there's been a leaning in even more that, like, even in certain settings, I may do a little more of the Enneagram teaching, and she's doing more of the facilitating of the spiritual formation or spiritual practices that we do with a group. She leads that and and guides people into those spaces, maybe either setting up a teaching I'm going to do or after a teaching that I've done or something like that. So, but yes, also still finding our way of what this is like to do this together. And with marriage work that we do, it's always better when we're together. Sure. Like when we started premarital way back in the day, when I was the young adults pastor, and we had all these young adults that naturally want to get married. We got to do a lot of it together. Then we went through a season as the kids got older, it was like not as feasible for us to do together. We're starting to get to do it a little more and more together now. And it's just always better. I think it helps, obviously at one level, like the woman of the couple is naturally more comfortable if Betsy's in the room. And it changes the conversation dynamic. And we have a dynamic when we do counseling together, that Betsy is very keen with what she reads in the other person and how they're answering and things that I may miss.
Sure.
And can then like interject, or if I'm ready to move on, she may pause me and like, wait a minute, and come to that question that I didn't notice, the body language or something like that. And so it's always better when we're together.
Yeah. It's really encouraging to hear you guys talk about this, because I know a lot of people, when they get to that, you're not empty nesters yet, but you're at the point where you've got 2 kids out of the home, you got 1 kid in high school. I mean, she's doing her thing. Yeah. So you're at this stage where a lot of marriages enter like a crisis moment where it's like, what are we who are we? But you guys, it seem like you're kind of coming into your own by being able to do this together. Absolutely. That's really cool.
Yes.
It's encouraging.
Cool. Yes.
So in your bio that we have on our website now, and as we've talked about it, you guys have been married 27 years, and you say we are still pursuing a great marriage. So after 27 years, what does pursuit look like in marriage?
I would say it looks like just trying to have like quality time together, but also quantity, and trying to make sure that we are putting in time, whether it's, choosing to go work out together and not just individually, or like run errands. I mean, little things. And then just, let's see.
Given the intentionality.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You want to?
Yeah. Just the intentional connection. And what would you add next?
That word intentionality is something that you bring up the word pursuit, particularly like this is what we want. We want to be connected. We want to be together. Kind of said before, like, one of the greatest gifts that we've experienced in many ways was we had the opportunity early in our marriage we ended up in a city by ourselves, where we only knew 2 other people, and spent the next 5 years there. And in those 5 years, it wasn't until the tail end that our oldest was born. So we had about 4 years of those 5. We built friendships, of course, but it gave us so much intentionality to bond together that I think of our companionship that developed in that time. So when I think about the word pursuit and I think about intentionality, I go back to, we love each other, but we like each other. We enjoy spending time together. We do, like Betsy just said, like running errands is like, oh, well, I get 20 minutes in the car with you. Yes, please. Sure. Because we can get that together. And so I think that's one thing at the retreat that people will hear us talk about again is the intentionality around conversations you're willing to have and things you're willing to do. That's what pursuit looks like, that you are thinking of it in that way. We are going after this. And we're fighting. And this is the theme we put forward for this retreat. We're fighting the inevitable drift if you don't give intentionality to it.
Yeah, you were someone 10 years ago. Every time I would meet with you one-on-one or just spend time with you, you'd be like, when's the last time you went on a date with your wife? And I was like, oh, David, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or whatever. You're like, you need to stop what you're doing basically and do that. Nice. And now, I mean, I miss those days where it was like, yeah, it was probably a week and a half ago we went on a date. Because now, I mean, we've got little kids and it's like, who knows when the last time we went on a date was, but the intentionality, has that been something that's been present your entire relationship?
Yes. And it's adjusted. It's changed over time or in different seasons, because little kids certainly do change that. But when it was just the two of us, we had intentionality about taking walks in our neighborhood back in Charlotte, like before the kids came. And I don't know where I picked it up from, but it was drilled into me somewhere along the way of dating my wife. And so making sure that Betsy and I were going out on a regular basis, even again, just the two of us in that way. And it's been different the last few years. It's shifted for us. With two in college and one at home, we don't like to leave her by herself. Yeah. So we've figured out with some of the flexibility we've had in our work, we date during the day. So it looks a little bit different for us, but it still carries also the intentionality of, okay, how do we go for a walk every day? Or how do we make sure we're intentional when we reconnect, that we're very intentional, like with how we reconnect in the morning. Like we're reconnecting from having been apart from each other while we sleep. I mean, we sleep in the same bed, but like you're asleep, so you're not interacting, right?
Yeah.
And so, so how do we reconnect in the morning and reconnect with eye contact, with a kiss, with a hug? And this is the way we start our day. And that kind of intentionality, like behind it for us, has been, we think, really, really key.
I like that you mentioned little things. How do you connect in the morning? Because you're not talking about getting up and sitting down and having coffee with one another at the kitchen table every morning so that you can reconnect. You're talking about little gestures that keep the two of you connected throughout the day, but that starts first thing in the morning.
Absolutely. We think it's actually something we learned at a marriage seminar here at Grace in 2005. It was the presenter, he called it the 60-second reconnect. And we'll talk about it at the retreat in detail, but it basically was every time you reconnect, or every time you come back together, like end of the workday or morning like this, what does that first 60 seconds look like? And we literally had a habit, like for example, in our house in Noblesville, you would walk through the laundry room into the kitchen from the garage, and we would do do-overs. Like if I walked in from being at church working and we didn't have a good connection, like maybe she was frazzled with the kids and I was late, which was often and such. And so sometimes we would get into it and we'd realize we're starting to build tension with each other. And then we say, stop. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back in the garage. We're going to do this again. Nice. And I would come back in.
I need that. I need to start doing that.
It's a game changer because to Maron's point, it's little, but that small, it changed the whole dynamic.
We literally just did that a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. I said, go back upstairs. Let's try this one more time.
It's so good.
I'm going to need you to say that again.
Oh, man. All right, let's talk about the retreat. So I don't know if you know this, but we're in the middle of a sermon series about marriage. And we've got this retreat coming up, and it's kind of been a year or more in the making, where the lead team of Grace Church has had multiple interactions with multiple couples, married couples, who are either on the precipice of disaster or have just gone through disaster or there's some kind of crisis. So if people are listening to this podcast right now and they're like, I know you're telling me there's a marriage retreat, but I don't, how is that possibly going to help? Because we're already too far gone or whatever. Like, what would you say to those people who we would love to come to this thing, but they're wondering if something like this could possibly even help.
Well, we think it will. We certainly hope so in this way.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: like if a person's just in a place where they're not feeling, maybe open and teachable, but not so much teachable from what we're going to say, but maybe willing to have some dialogue with their spouse in particular, then the retreat would be rough for them. Just candidly, because what we are trying to set up in this time more than anything else is intentional conversations between couples. Our time together will be some presentation of some content to foster then individual reflection with questions that we offer that will then lead to conversation between the couple. And so what we believe is that wherever a couple is at, whether the couple feels like their marriage is in a good, strong place, or they're in that place with a lot of uncertainty, or maybe even a desperate place, the point of what we're trying to do is give them the opportunity, the space. They're already not at home. They are maybe, they won't have their kids around if they have kids. Hopefully they'll be able to, separate from their phones so they don't have that distraction, to then look at each other and really engage conversations that are super important. And I think to that end, what it could do for a couple maybe who is particularly in the struggle space is it would give hopefully clarity to them on what are the core things that we need to pay attention to right now. What are the core issues that we want to pay attention to? And then for some it will be, okay, we need to get help with that. Like, we're not seeking to disseminate a ton of information on a Friday night and a Saturday morning. We're more putting some of that content there to create discussion amongst them as the couple, because they're the experts on their relationship because they're experiencing it. And so what is really rising to the surface? And we find, like, as well-intentioned as we can be as a couple, it still takes work to be able to get the time to talk.
Yeah.
And just give that focus in that way. And for some couples, it's going to happen much better, especially if they're in a hard place in their marriage. It's likely not going to happen wonderfully at home because there's going to be potential fear of escalation. Whereas here, the likelihood of someone blowing up when having a couple conversation, when there's like 5 feet away is another couple who's talking and 10 feet away is another couple talking, it just kind of can create a bit of a safe space, hopefully, to maybe even say some hard things that could then go deeper.
Yeah, I just would add, like, the real-time conversation is so key, because you can go to, like, seminars and things like that, right? And you're just taking in so much information. And it's like, oh, this is really good. And then you leave and you just go right back to life, right? And it's so busy. And then you have to create this space to talk. And it's really easy to not go back to it and almost just forget you even went to it if you aren't intentional. So the real-time conversation is a key factor that we believe in and
that's
offer.
I agree with you on that. I have notebooks full of great information from conferences that didn't necessarily give a lot of conversational time between couples. So that's an exciting element of what you guys are bringing.
And what our hope is that the way it's structured is that couples will walk away with feeling like there's one particular area they're like, okay, as we walk away from this is the one area that we've talked about, we've discussed, we're going to give intention to this one area particularly. But when we're ready, it's accessible enough that all these questions that we're going to offer for reflection and for conversation could be, okay, we've leaned in here, here's some things that have happened. And maybe then 2 months later, like, let's pull that out. Let's go to this second one, this second area that we talked about. We felt like we needed to give intention to. Let's give some intention to that. I mean, it's there for them if they want. But again, it's like, we don't need to even necessarily remember all the content we heard. We've got these questions that we wrote answers to that we can go back to ourselves.
Yeah, that's good. I think it's important to know, and I don't even know if you guys know this, but on the registration to sign up for this retreat, we're asking couples basically to self-identify. First of all, are you in a relationship? But also, like, are you a struggling marriage? Are you a seasoned marriage? Are you thriving? What's the other one? Are you newlyweds? So those are the 4 categories, basically self-identify.
Yep.
And we've got 15 to 20% are saying we're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot more are saying we're seasoned, which is basically
Good.
like we've been married for a long time, but there's maybe a little bit of drift, kind of what you just said.
Sure.
But we're in a mostly fine place, but it's not thriving, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now, only about 20% of people are saying that they're in a thriving marriage. So that's interesting because you kind of get a glimpse of who's coming to this, you know.
Yeah, that's helpful.
So what should people expect? Like, why? What separates something like this? Maybe they've been to a number of these types of things before. What separates what we're gonna offer here with you guys? How would you characterize the difference?
Will there be a group hug at the end?
No,
Okay, thank you.
Trust falls.
no
Thank
trust
you.
falls.
My,
There will be couple hug encouragement,
but not mandatory.
not mandatory.
Couple hug encouragement.
We went
hopefully
to
a good
a-
amount of sex that weekend with the married couples. Yes.
Oh, David, family show. Just
with
kidding.
you, Tyler?
We'll bleep that out.
we did go to a marriage
kidding.
conference once that ended
I
in a
think
group hug.
the conversation piece we've talked about is definitely there. We use a little bit of not a little bit. We use a rubric that will be in there that we invite in these conversations: share, mirror, validate, get curious. And so when we get to the couple conversation piece, or when a couple moves from their individual reflection to say that we're ready to talk, one person shares, the other person mirrors back what they heard, validates what they heard. Validation, as we'll talk about there, will be validation doesn't mean you're trying to say, oh, I understand you. In fact, most of the time it's better that you don't say, oh, I understand how you're feeling, because that doesn't go well, because you really probably don't. But you could say something like, oh, that if I felt that way, that would feel heavy to me, or I'm sad that you feel that heaviness in that way, or that fear, but there's a validation of what the person has expressed. And then the invitation is to get curious. Curiosity is the antidote to judgment. And so when we're curious, we're not judging our spouse. We're not judging what they're experiencing, what they're saying. We're not getting defensive when we get curious. So they've shared, we've mirrored it back, and there's a sense that I've heard you clearly, and I've validated that what you are experiencing, thinking, feeling, it is valid. Even if I disagree with it,
Sure.
It is valid that that's your experience right now. And now I'm going to get curious instead of getting defensive, instead of getting judgmental, instead of wanting to just now say my side of it. Sure. Oh, now I'm supposed to get curious and spend some more time listening. And then eventually we'll swap roles.
Right. I'd be curious to know why you're such an idiot all the time, right? Like
That's gonna be
not
really
what
helpful. That's hopefully not what happens, but
Being idiots.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Got one.
Always ready.
Yeah. You already said this, but some people that I know associate you guys with Enneagram. It's Enneagram Insight is
Enneagram Insight.
your thing,
Yeah.
right? And so you already said we're not talking about it. So do couples at all need to be familiar with what that is? Would that help? Would that does it matter if they're fluent in Enneagram language?
No, we are not going to be teaching on the Enneagram, so they can have like no base of knowledge and just be totally fine.
Yeah.
I would say if couples do know the Enneagram and their numbers and they have questions at any point during the question time, like there will be times where we'll just be at the front and people can come and talk to us.
Yeah.
Like we would be more than happy to talk to them.
Good. I've looked through some of the materials that you guys have done for other places with this retreat. I think it's the same thing, or
it's going to be very similar.
You lead people through, obviously, like you said, some pretty deep conversations, reflection. And I don't know if this is a spoiler, so I don't know. We can cut it out, but it kind of
like
ends.
spoilers.
Yeah. The retreat kind of ends with you guys asking couples, what's one thing you want to let go of? And that was an interesting question to me, because I think if you've gone through, we're offering 2 days of this. So if you've gone through 2 experiences like this and you get to the end, you're like, what's something you need to let go of or want to let go of? I think that'll be a really interesting thing for people to respond to. And so I'm curious, for you guys, what in your experience have you guys had as an answer for that? Like what's an example of letting go of something that you guys have experienced?
Yeah, for me, I've had to let go of just the thought that our marriage would have a lot more like social interaction, like with other, like with groups, with couples. I'm a social person and I love to be in groups. And so I think that's something I've had to adjust to and really just let go of it's not necessarily something we're going to do a lot together. And it's okay. It's the way it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Betsy would have our house filled with people on a very consistent basis. And I am a person who is the opposite of that and feels like the home is the haven and my
your nest.
Back away from. And it's been really significant how that has impacted us, her willingness to do that. I mean, letting go of, it could be, for some couples, what we've experienced at times is just letting go of the little pet peeves, that the little things that you just realize, okay, that's never going to change, and that doesn't need to change. And I need to let go of the fact that this is the way this is, or the difference of how she handles a situation, how I handle a situation that doesn't need to be talked through. It's just how we are in that way. So I think that's a big piece of it. I think also somewhere along the way, I realized, like, for example, I needed to let go of having the best marriage. As an Enneagram 3 who wants to succeed at everything and stand out, it's like our marriage needs to stand out. And then I'm the young adults pastor, which means we got to be the exemplary young couple for all these young adults and eventually just realize this is not helpful. This is going to put pressure on me and lead to shame. This is going to pressure her in ways that is totally unfair and is not what God's asking us to for anyway in the way we live in our marriage. And so even in a bigger way, like letting go of what pressure I put on myself in that way. But I think for the couples in this, it could be something like that. It could be like what's an expectation, or what's a way that I think of our marriage that it's not happened the way I thought and I'm still clinging to it. And it might be more maybe theoretical or ethereal in some ways that they have to let go of. And then somebody else might have something that they realize they got to let go of. Is like, oh, this is just really practical. Like I've got to let go of the TV remote. And I've got to in the evenings, spend more time pursuing my spouse and not in front of Netflix or not on my phone or something like that. It could be very practical in that way that brings a shift in that sense. We believe, so Father Richard Rohr has this powerful quote that all great spiritual transformation happens by letting go. And letting go is a little bit different than the word surrender to me, because surrender, though a powerful word, of course, has that connotation of, it's kind of like the raise the white flag and you're just kind of waving, giving up. And letting go to me has the connotation of possession. It's I've possessed it, and which means I own it. So that example, like I possess it, I own it. I spend too much time on my phone in the evenings when I could be pursuing my spouse in conversation. I want to let go of that. And there's a difference.
Did you talk to Lauren before this?
It's not about you, remember?
It's not about you,
remember?
And so that there's something about that letting go that brings transformation. And we believe in a marriage that is spiritual transformation. As our marriages experience transformation through God's work, it is spiritual transformation that's happening.
You talked about this a little bit. The framework that you're working with is you're helping people share, mirror, validate, and be curious within the relationship. How did that framework come about, and why do you guys believe that is a recipe for success, or like a super helpful framework to work from?
We ripped it off.
You did?
Oh, totally.
Sweet.
All the best stuff is ripped off. We have friends who have these couples cards with questions that are called couples cues. And
our friends at Fall Creek Abbey in Indianapolis.
Yes, thank you.
Cite your sources.
Cite my source, yes. And we'll have these cards in little packets actually for sale for people to pick up. We think that they are worth more than any book you can buy on marriage because they're I can't remember how many cards there are. It might be like 75 or something like that. Conversation starters between the couple, which is gold. And they have share, mirror, validate, and I can't remember what their fourth word is. It's similar to get curious, but we like the word we use the word curiosity a lot when we talk about Enneagram, and so we wanted to put it in here. And the reason we think the framework works is because it makes it about the other person and not about you.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
You're mirroring back, so that means you got to be listening. You're validating, so you're not inserting your thoughts. You're validating what they said, thought, and you're getting curious about them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we think it's significant.
Good.
So when you're doing all of that, you are seeing the other person. They are feeling seen. They are feeling heard. They're feeling loved in that. The defenses can be down. And there's this amazing thing that happens when you can offer all of that to someone in the right side of their brain that needs that attention and connection. It does wonders for your body, for your connection, for all of it. So that framework is really helpful when it comes to feeling loved at the end of it all.
Yeah, let me share. Saturday we were driving down to a wedding in Kentucky, and on the way down, I was sharing with her some thoughts about something to start with, and I was a little bit tense about it, and I was not feeling great about what I was even sharing because I knew it could bother her, but I wanted to share it anyway because I felt like I needed to get it out and have this conversation. And it was about a situation with some other people and interactions. And at first, when I was finished sharing, she started to give me an explanation of why this other person outside of us might have been doing what they were doing in this way. And I gently just said, can you stop for a moment and not defend them? And can you just like hear that this is what I'm experiencing? And she got quiet, she took a breath, and then she completely mirrored back, validated, like multiple ways, like said about 3 or 4 things of I can see how you would see that. I can see how you might be experiencing that. I can see why you might feel that. That makes sense to me. And like this, literally, like it felt like a wash of love from head to toe. And then at that moment, I started not so much backtracking on what I was saying, but I started saying, yeah, and I can also see what you were saying about how they're in this situation. It totally changed my posture to what she had been saying earlier.
Sure.
And this is something that, we both have to do with each other. It just happened to be her moment to do it for me, and hopefully I do it for you. But what Betsy says there about when you are seen, you're understood, you're known, yes, you literally feel loved in that moment.
That's cool. Betsy, what, as a spiritual director, like what's one or a spiritual practice that you're like, that's been the most life-giving to you or in your marriage with David? What's kind of the spiritual discipline that you would attribute the most helpful?
I would say it's practicing a contemplative sit each day. It's sitting in silence, and it's not holding on to anything, but it's I have a prayer word that I keep in my mind that I go back to, and that's abide in me from John 15. And it's just this reminder that, like, I don't have to make things happen. I am always with God. God is always with me. I can let go of all the craziness that's in my brain that wants to just kind of take over. And it's really helped me, I would say, to be able to, as an Enneagram 6 who like has a lot of like fearful thinking and can go like on these spirals, to be able to catch that and let those thoughts go, and surrender them to God, and trusting that He's caring for me. And also it's something that we actually do together.
Oh, really?
And so because we're like sitting in the same room and taking that time together, it's been really impactful to just, we do start our day together that way.
Have you guys always done that?
No, I would say we started in
2017, 2018. Yeah, 17 when we were introduced to Centering Prayer.
How did that start? Because I'm going to be honest, my wife and I don't start the mornings together. we actually spend time in separate rooms.
That's not wrong.
Yeah.
If you spend time individually with God, that's just fine.
Hearing that hasn't always been a part of your story, but you guys at one point were like, this is probably what's best. How did that come up?
I mean, it probably came up when we learned about it. It was a little bit of like, we are taking the challenge to do this. We were at a weekend workshop with Joe and Suzanne Stabile, and Joe Stabile introduced, a lot of people know Suzanne Stabile, Road Back to You, other books on the Enneagram, but Joe taught about centering prayer, and then he gave a 90-day challenge, and he's like, do this for 90 days straight, and you'll never stop. And so we were like, well, let's...
And it will change your life.
And it'll change your life, which it has. And so we took that challenge, and I think initially it was probably partly just the challenge, right? Like we both wanted to do it, so we would just sit in the same room and
we
do
weren't.
this together.
We weren't even in the same room back then.
Oh, back then we weren't.
No.
You were doing
because I was working.
independently
That's
of one
right, 'cause you were
another.
working.
Oh yeah, I was working full time. We were kind of just doing our own thing. So I would say it's probably the last few years.
Yeah, but even
maybe.
when you were still working, we would just get up early enough to be able to be together in the space.
How long?
at
How
some
long
point
are
it
we sitting?
transitioned.
How long?
We have to-
How long is this sit?
Do you start your day with?
I need to know.
It's like consistently like 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's
20
not a
is our
super long
desire,
time.
but sometimes it's 5. Sometimes it's like, do you have time? How much time do you have? I have 5 minutes, and then
Is it like the first thing you guys do?
We make coffee.
Okay. Well, yeah,
I
but
make
like
coffee.
it's like
Oh,
you guys
yes.
wake up at the same time.
We do generally wake up in the same time, or I wake
that's
up
where-
a little.
that's
First
I wake up a
problem.
little
That's
bit
where
First
you're
before.
problem right there.
That's where you're gonna.
That's
go
never
wrong.
going to happen.
Yeah, if you wake up at different
That's
times,
where
it's a
you're
little bit
doomed.
different. So it's just it's what works for us in our journey together, and having that practice, and it leads to what it's interestingly enough. Recently, this has been more so in the last year. A lot of our centering prayer, we would do that contemplative sit, and then we both might sit next to each other, but do our own individual things, like whether it was journal or read our Bibles or something like that. And more recently, though, actually, it's turned into doing our sit, and then at the end, praying together for the day, for our kids, for our family, which is absolutely a bonding experience to pray with each other.
So that was going to be my question. So just practically speaking, you guys are sitting in chairs next to each other, just
With being
not
with God.
with books, just you and God
being with
for
God.
15
straight
Do you
minutes.
make eye
Sometimes
contact?
20.
Are
No,
you
no,
looking in
eyes
other directions?
closed. Eyes closed.
Eyes closed.
Eyes closed.
All right, then
We
how do
set
you
a
know it's time to
timer.
pray
Set a
together?
timer. Set
Oh,
a
okay,
timer.
sorry.
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
This is so helpful.
Have a timer.
This is like I could actually see this being a possibility. Liv and I just finished building our study. We turned this room into a beautiful study with bookshelves, and now we've got a bunny in there, which is probably a little distracting but wonderful. And we've gotten in the habit, without intentionality, we've gotten in the habit of finding ourselves together in there. I'm usually reading a book. She's usually in there reading or doing something. And so I was like, oh, this actually could be doable. So
Yeah.
I'm like curious about the
So,
practicality of it.
As simple as, Thomas Keating has an app, Centering Prayer, the Centering Prayer app from Contemplative Outreach. Yeah, Contemplative Outreach. And it is, we sit next to each other. We start the timer. We sit in silence. We are with God, but we are next to each other. We don't hold hands. We don't touch. This is our time with God. We are in union with God. God is in union with us. Centering prayer is a resist no thought, feeling, or sensation that comes to you, but retain no thought, feeling, or sensation that comes to you. Release every thought, feeling, or sensation that comes to you. Return to your sacred word and your breath, and just be. And Richard Rohr describes it as God doing business with you that you have no business knowing what God's doing with you. This is where you just be with God, and you're not. It's where God works on our relationship with God, which is just a beautiful thought that we aren't the only ones that work on our relationship. But what we've experienced with each other is what God has also given us in our marriage, which is, yes, this is individual, but as we draw near to God and center ourselves with God, it does something to us as a couple. And
What
then
I
it does
love
lead
about
to
this
praying together.
is that you're establishing your day on level ground. You're on the same page and you're starting that way. We just talked about it in the earlier portion of this lengthy podcast about ideally you are starting on the same page. Ideally, both of you are seeking after God. Both of you are wanting to be transformed into the likeness of Christ. That's the ideal picture. Too often we see people who are not on the same page. Maybe one spouse is deconstructed while the other one is still trying to be more like Christ, and they're just not even starting from the same place. You two are not only starting from the same place, way back when you got married, but you have made a commitment to continue to start from the same place every day.
Mm-hmm. The beauty of centering prayer, that also in that starting the same places, the foundation of that starting the same places, we are starting at the same place of our union with God, but we are not always in the exact same place with how we're feeling about God or what's going on in our relationship with God. I think I think centering prayer might be, slight potential exaggeration for Enneagram 3 coming, might be the singular best practice for people who are in different places with God. So maybe that person, that spouse who is in a significant deconstruction, I'm not even sure if I believe anymore, I'm hanging by a thread. You can do centering prayer because all you're doing is saying, God, I'm sitting with you and hoping you're out there. Great. God's good with that. And you could be sitting next to your spouse who is vibrant and hopeful and in a season of life of just incredible confidence. And you can share that space in centering prayer, even if you are in some different spaces in the journey with God where you are in that way. And that's one of the gifts.
That's really cool. I am struck with this mental image because my sermon this past weekend was all about, included a big rabbit trail back to Eden. We talked about Adam and Chava, you'd appreciate that, and talked about their experience of before the fall, like what was that relationship like? We talked about that. And so I'm struck with this image because God can be in wherever he wants, in multiple places at the same time. I imagine both of them taking walks with God together, alone with God at the same time in the cool of the day. And then suddenly the path converges and they find themselves together and they continue the walk together and God hasn't left their side. I just find that
beautiful.
So that image is so beautiful. So it's really cool.
What kind of couple is this retreat perfect for?
We hope it's for every couple, really. I mean, no matter where you find yourself, we think that there's enough like practical wisdom and yes, the conversations that will, starters that will offer, that we hope everybody will find something that will be really practical and helpful.
If a couple who wants encouragement with either to start being more intentional in their marriage or continue being intentional with their marriage. They're already intentional and they just want the encouragement of maybe some new questions, some new thoughts that they haven't thought of yet. Maybe this will give them that. Maybe not. Maybe there'll be someone there who's heard everything we've said before, which is fine. But then hopefully it would be affirming to them.
Yeah. Because I was talking to somebody and they were like, I don't know if we need to go to this. Like, we're good. And I was like, well, yeah, you should probably still go to it. But I hope you find something. I think that there's a couple people, 20% said we're thriving, right? So there's a couple people coming that's like what you just described. Yeah. And so what can they expect?
Well, the thriving couple wants to come. Because the thriving couple already believes that they need more to stay thriving. The nervous couple for me would be, we're good. We don't need something like that because we're good. Okay, you're the one I'm going to be a little nervous about. Respectfully said, not knowing the story.
And I said in my first message in the series, I maybe got a little, I don't know if it was a little bold, but I was talking about, you mentioned as pastors, the calls that we receive and often it's like so much of the damage has already been done. It's like, what is that? And I said like how often I wish I could go back 5 or 10 years and begin working on, help you as a couple. And so I kind of, as a challenge, I said, like, things might be just fine right now, but are you 5 or 10 years away from making that call? This is important. And so I use that as an encouragement. Come to this retreat. So it's probably all those thriving people and all the sort of medium people all signed up because they felt really guilty after that.
And
that's what we need.
And one spouse says, we're good.
Yeah.
Do you know that your spouse actually thinks we're good?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah. All right, last question. What do you guys hope people walk away with from this experience? Because I feel like we haven't done I know we've done stuff like this before in the history of Grace, but we haven't done something like this in a while. So people may not know, this is a thing Grace is offering, and David and Betsy, people may still know who you guys are, but there are people who are like, I'm very familiar, I know them, and I can kind of know what to expect from something like this. But what do you hope people end up walking away from this feeling or experiencing or thinking as a couple?
I would say I really hope that couples just feel encouraged and hopeful, no matter where they are, that there's always something you can implement into your relationship to make it stronger. And really, it's like there will be a lot of things to talk about. So so what is the one area of focus that we can put intention to for, whatever amount of time and see growth in.
And I would add to that the hope that people enjoy the conversations. So the desire in them for more conversation is there. And maybe some couples, it's like there's going to be a sense of wow, we haven't talked like this in a while, just because of life circumstances, because of the season, because of work or kids or whatever it may be. For other couples, it may be, we haven't talked like this in a long time because something happened and we haven't worked through it. And so my trust level's been a little bit lower, or things like that. And so I hope it awakens the desire for these types of conversations. So then they'll figure out how to make time, even 15, 20 minutes at home, to continue some level of these conversations and get back to, it's a bit cheesy to say, but get back to, like, when you're dating the person, you are right there, like just locked in. And drift is just that. You just, without intentionality, just like two boats in water, the water does not push you together. The current does not push you together. It always makes you drift. And we have more than just the currents of our culture that make us drift. And so intentionality is like, gosh, I like this. I enjoyed this.
Cool. Guys, thank you so much for coming in and doing this with us today.
Thank you for having us. Fun to be with you.
Betsy, I'm sorry David didn't shave. I know that.
We should have communicated that this was
we
on
should have
video.
said that this was going to be on video. I think, like I said, I think this is such a gift of time and investment and intentionality that the people of Grace should really take us up on. I think go to gracechurch.us/marriage retreat, sign up. It's only $25 per couple. Like, this is such a gift. This is going to be a great 2-day experience. There's childcare provided. Like,
that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, all the stuff. Like, you should go to this. So please go sign up for that. And we'll see you on August 22nd and 23rd. David and Betsy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Barry, where do we go next?
All right, so we're finishing up the series, week 3, looking at verses 11 and 12 of Romans 12. And again, this one will probably be the most realistic of all the sermons, because we're going to kind of move from that. Like we said earlier, we're going to move from that ideal to the real world and try to talk about what do you do when it doesn't pan out, and what's our posture meant to be when that sort of thing happens. So that's where we're going, and I hope that it'll be kind of a fruitful end to the series.
Good. Sign up for the marriage retreat, gracechurch.us/marriage retreat. And we hope to see you August 22nd or 23rd. Maron, will you please send us out?
I will. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God.
We'll see you on the other side of Sunday.